Hi viewer, this is EasyElimu channel. I'm Vincent Kanumwai and I'll be taking you through Form 3 Mathematics, Chapter 6, Commercial Arithmetic. Welcome. We shall start with the simple interest. Under simple interest, we know that one thing, in that people may have excess of capital and others may lack. And in our daily activities, we may need one or two things in order to accomplish during our daily activities, but we may have inadequate capital. So you will find some people going to financial institution to borrow some money, and others, if they have excess, they will go to deposit in a financial institution their money. And if they do so, the money deposited in that financial institution or that borrowed from a financial institution, we call that amount, that money as principal. And it is usually denoted by letter P, capital P. If this amount is borrowed or deposited in a financial institution, we shall find out if it is borrowed under a specific given period of time, it will earn some interest. Now, whatever amount will earn, or if you borrow amount from a financial institution, if on return you will have to add some, which will be like a charge on what you used. So that one we refer to is as interest. Now we say it will have an interest. If you deposited, you will find your amount has increased with a certain amount for a given period of time. And if you borrowed in a given period of time, you will have to return with an additional amount. That is what I'm referring to as interest, abbreviated as I. If you take the ratio of the interest over the principal or to that of the principal, you will find something which we know as the rate. And this one is abbreviated as R. And in most cases, you find that this rate is always expressed in percentage. So, if you take the ratio of interest over the principal, you will find the rate. And this amount is always borrowed or deposited in a financial institution for a specific period of time, and that time is abbreviated as T. That is the period at which the interest will be earned, given the rate. So with that, we need to see how this one brings about simple interest. And I will tell you that simple interest is the interest earned when you take, or the principal which you took, the initial principal, the interest which is earned using the principal or the initial principal, the money borrowed initially or deposited in a bank initially, then that is what we refer to as simple interest. Now we shall see an example here. We shall see an example of simple interest and help us how to find simple interest formula. For example, we have been told, calculate the simple interest earned on 15,300 at 11.5% per annum for 1 year, 2 years, and 3 years. So just for 3 years. Now we need to see how this one brings about simple interest and the formula for which we shall use for calculating that simple interest. For example, now we have been given there the amount, and the amount there shall be now our principal, and that amount is 15,300. And the rate has been noted as 11.5%. And the period of time, we have been given period in 1 year, we have been given 2 years, and we have been given in 3 years, the third year. So what we are going to do, we need to calculate the interest earned in this period, the second period, and the third period. And this 11.5% is issued in per annum. So we shall say our interest, which is simple interest, in first year, let us take for the first year there. I will note it as first year. So in first year, we shall find that the interest earned will be now our principal, which is 15,300 multiplied by the rate, and rate here we have been given 11.5, but we know it is a percentage, isn't it? So meaning that we shall divide by 100 so that we may find what does 11.5% represent. Now we multiply by the period, and period here, because the rate is per annum and period is 1 year, so we shall use 1 year as we have been given. Now it will be multiplied by 1 year, and you find, if you calculate this one out, you will find that at the end of that 1 year, you are going to have 1,759.50. That is what you are going to have. And then, for the second year, you will find out that the interest in the second year now, this is for the first year. Now we are going to see in the second year, what will it add? We shall use the same principle. We multiply by 11.5 over 100, and then we multiply by, it is the second year, it's just an additional of 1 year. So we are going to multiply by 1, because if you take 2 minus 1, you are going to get 1. We are going to get the interest in the second year. What will it have amounted after the first year? So we are going to get, in the second year, it is going to give us, it is giving me the same interest as the above, 1,059.50 there. Now, after getting the interest in the second year, now I'm going to work for third year. And I will find out that in third year, I'm going to get the same principle. I multiply by the rate which I have is 11.5 over 100 multiplied by, now this is the third year. The second year I have found is this one after the first year. Now I want to find the interest in the third year after finding the interest in the second year. Now I will get here, I will have to multiply by 1, because after the second year I have an additional of 1 year to find the third year. Now if I multiply that way, I'm going to get that the interest which will be earned in that year will be the same interest, which is, I'm going to get 1,759.50 or 50 with this 50 cents. So that's what we are going to get. And if we need the total interest in the 3 years, we shall find out that the interest in the 3 years will be, in 3 years now I'm going to have interest as, I will take the interest in the first year. Now I'm going to do this. I will find interest in 2 years. What will I get? In 1 year, we have as this. In 2 years, I will take this interest, I add it to this one. I'll find the interest in 2 years. In 3 years, I'm going to get the interest in all of them. For example, I will take now, I'm going to get in first year, in 1 year, not first year, in 1 year, interest will be 1,759.50. In 2 years, not the second year now, in 2 years, interest is going to be, you will take the two of them, that is 1,759.50 of the first year, you add for that of the second year, and you will find out that you are going to have, this one is going to give us something else. Yeah. You're going to get 3,519 shillings. So that is in 2 years. And in 3 years, you will find out that the interest is going to be, you are going to get now this one or the 3 of them, you add them together. Now we are going to add them together, and you will find out that on addition, you are going to get, you will get that one. And that one is also found by just taking the interest which we have been calculated over 3 periods, and you will find out the same value as we found. So we can come to a conclusion that it is an addition. In each year we are finding the same. So meaning for the second year, it's only an addition of the same interest which is found in the first year as here. So in third year, it's just an addition of the interest of the first year to second year, you will find the third year. So we can say that now to calculate simple interest, which is interest here, we take principal multiplied by the rate which is over 100. Let me write aside. We say to calculate the interest which we want, you take the principal, which is the initial principal, you multiply by the rate of 100, then you multiply by the period of time which will be issued with. We have seen how it is working out. So, if you multiply that one, we are going to have a simple interest formula which is given as I equals to PRT over 100. Now, this is the formula for finding the simple interest of a given amount. Now we are going to see if you need the amount after a given period, for example, amount in 3 years, we shall now take the initial principal, you add it to the accumulated interest. This is the interest earned in 3 years. Now you will take that interest earned in 3 years, then you add it to the initial principal. So if we do that, then you will be finding the amount of that given condition. For example, if our principal was 15,300, we shall add it to 5,278.50 along with the 50 cents. And this one will give you the amount which we require there. 20,578.50. That is with the 50 cents. And this is the amount now. So, we were told to calculate the interest, simple interest, and in 15,300 for 11 or rate at 11.5% per annum for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and we have found in 1 year we got the value of that, in second year we got, and then in 2 years we found this, in 3 years we found that. So we have seen that if we need the amount in 3 years, actually, we have found that amount in 3 years, we shall take the principal, we add it to interest, and then if you do that, you are going to get the amount. And with that, we have found that the formula for finding simple interest with any given period, T, you will find it using this formula. And if you need the amount after that period of time, you will take that amount is equal to principal plus the interest. And interest is calculated using this formula. At times, you may be given amount, given the initial principal, or given amount, initial principal, and period, but denied rate. You will have to find the rate. Sometimes you may be required to find time, or the period of time that interest have taken to accumulate. And at time, you may be issued with the interest or simple interest, rate and time, and be required to find principal. Be sure that if you use this formula, you will be in the right position to find. For example, I will take you through one. Now we need to calculate, in this equation we have been told, calculate the rate of interest if 4,500 shillings earns 500 for 1.5 years. So we need to calculate the rate there. We have been given the principal here, we have been given as principal is 4,500. Then the rate, we don't know. We need to find that rate because we've been told calculate the rate of interest. If 4,500, now that is our principal, and 500 shillings, that is the interest. Now we shall say interest equals to 500 shillings. And our period of time there, we have been issued with 1.5 years. Now we are going to calculate the rate, but we shall calculate rate using the simple interest formula. That is I equals to PRT, actually PRT over 100. Now from this formula, we have been issued with the interest, principal, time. Now rate we don't have, and that is what we need to calculate. We can make that one the subject of the formula, or just use the formula directly and you will find out what you want. For example, for my case, I will not make you be complicated. I'll just use the formula directly as it is. That is, where there are requirements, I will just issue them as they are. For example, interest I will issue at 500 is equal to principal. I substitute it at 4,500 multiplied by the rate which is not present, multiplied by time, and my time is 1.5 years, which is equivalent to 1.5 years. Now this I divide by 100. From there, we may take this way. 100 into 45, you will find that this one divides itself once, and here it will go 45 times. If you take 45 multiplied by R multiplied by 1.5, you are going to get 500 shillings is equal to 67.5 R. Now, with that, we are going to say, if we needed to find R, you are going to divide this side by 100, actually by 67.5, and this side by 67.5. If you divide that way, you are going to get that this 67.5 on the right-hand side is going to divide itself, and we will remain with the R is equal to 500 divided by 67.5. And you are going to get your rate is equivalent to 7.407. Actually, they are carrying 407 up to the end. So, just to one decimal place, we are going to get the rate as equal to 7.4%. Rate is always, in most cases, expressed in percentage. Now, our rate there we have found is 7.4%. What I mean that if you have been issued with the initial conditions here, you use them to calculate whatever it is missing using the help of simple interest formula, and we have seen from there. The same can apply to time, can apply even to finding amount and also finding the principal. If money deposited into a financial institution or borrowed from a financial institution earns a given interest in a given period of time, you will find that some institution will tend not to give it back to the owner, or the owner may intend not to be given that amount. This amount will be put together, which we say accumulating with. So it may be put together with the principal so as it may earn an additional interest. So we shall find that if this amount or the interest earned is accumulated with the principal so as to earn an additional interest, we refer to such interest as compound interest. And it is normally abbreviated the same as that of simple interest and is abbreviated as I. So the interest earned now will be compound interest. And we find that this interest is earned over a given period of time. And this period of time here is referred to as now interest period, which we shall refer to as T. This interest period may be in different forms. Others may be earned in quarterly, some are semi-annually, others are annually, or in any given kind of form. But most of the case, it is not normally as per annum, because some are quarterly, some semi-annually, and other may even be monthly. So it depends. So that one we refer to as simple interest period. Now, having interest period, now we may see that this interest period, which will be earned in given, if compound interest may be earned in a given interest period, we find that it will be under some given condition, which we shall refer to as rate. And we saw rate is the interest earned over the principal. The ratio will now be our rate. Now this rate, which I will refer to as rate, it may be denoted in several forms. This will depend on the interest period. And if this rate, for example, net rate be R, and our interest period be as N, for example, let's take our interest period be N. and rate is per annum, for example, we have been issued with a rate which is per annum, R per annum, and our interest period is N, which is not per annum, it may be even quarterly. So if we want to find the rate per each interest period, we shall now take that R, we divide by N, and we shall have found the rate of that interest period per each, the rate of that interest per each interest period. Now will be determined as R over N. For instance, I may say that we have been issued like this compound interest is earned by 12% per annum, and it is compounded quarterly. So if it is compounded quarterly, then we have to find the rate at which that compound interest will be found at quarterly. So you will say that 1 year have 4 quarters. So if you want to find the interest period here, actually the rate per interest period, you will now take that 12%, which is per annum or yearly, you divide by the number of quarters which are found in a year. So it shall be divided by 4, and you will find that the rate per each interest period is 3%, and this is what I will refer to as my rate per interest period. Now this rate here, which is 12%, is what I'm now referring to R, which is given per annum, and this 4 year is my interest period, which is per annum. So that is what I'm referring to that way. So we can use that one and see how we can calculate amount. And for example, you may find out that this one we have said is a compound interest which will have accumulated after given interest period. And if you need the accumulated amount here, we shall refer to as accumulated amount. You will take now the compound interest which you will have found, then you add to the interest. And this one is normally given within the formula. So the amount here is the accumulated amount, and it's obtained using that compound interest formula. It's just the compound interest which you will have obtained plus the principal. That one will be your amount. So let's see an example here. Find the amount after 2 years if 10,000 is invested at 15% per annum compound interest. This one we have been just given 2 years, and that is our interest period. But it is per annum, so there is no need of dividing with what we don't have here, because it is per annum, so it is fully, we use it. Now our principal here, we have been issued with 10,000. The rate per annum we have been given is 15%, and the period of time here is 2 years. So we needed to find the amount, and we have said to find the amount, we shall take the compound interest we add to the principal. And here we know our principal is 10,000, so we are going to find the compound interest. And my compound interest here, I'm going to find it in the first year. In first year, you will find out that I'll take now 10,000, I multiply by 15 over 100, multiply by 1 year in first year. And I will find out that this one will earn me 1,500. That is the interest or compound interest obtained in first year. And if I want to find the compound interest in second year, now I will have to take the principal. Now, my next principal will be the amount plus the interest found in the first year. So meaning that here I have to find the amount after the first year. And if you need to find the amount, the accumulated amount, let me call it accumulated amount because you are taking the interest you add to the principal. So the accumulated amount here will now be 10,000, which was my principal, Then I add to compound interest which accumulated, and I will find that the amount here is going to be 11,500. Now this is my new principal. In the second year, what I'm going to use, I will use this accumulated amount in the first year as the principal of the second year. Now here, I will now take 11,500 and not 10,000. This now will become my new principal, and I multiply by 15 over 100, multiply by 1 year, because it's for the second year. So if I do that way, I'm going to find the interest for the second year will be, I will get this one as 1,725 shilling. And as you can view, if it were that we were using simple interest, we could have found that the interest in the first year could be 1,500, which is 1,500, and in second year could be the same or double of that one. But here we are finding that they are different. The interest here is not the same as the interest in the second year. So if we need the amount in the second year, which will be in 2 years now, we shall now take the principal of the second year, which is now 11,500. We add it to the interest accumulated in the second year, which is 1,725, and we are going to get 13,225. That is now the accumulated amount. Accumulated amount in 2 years. We are going to get, that is how we find it. Here, what we do is that after finding the compound interest for the first year, this next principal or your principal in the second year will be the accumulated amount in the first year, and is found by taking the principal you add to the compound interest in the first year. So if it is 5 years, the same procedure will continue. The amount here will be the principal in the third year, and that is how we calculate as you move on manually. We shall see in our next session how we can find out compound interest formula, which will now be shortening how we shall find compound interest at any given period of time. Now let's see another example. A customer deposits 14,000 shillings in a savings account. Find the accumulated amount after 1 year if interest was paid 12% per annum, compounded quarterly. Now here we are being told that our principal here, we shall get it as 14,000. Rate here, we have been issued with a rate is 12% per annum. Time, we have been given 1 year, but interest period is not equal to given time. So our interest period here, we are compounding it quarterly. So meaning, if we need that interest period here will be obtained by taking the time divided by the number of quarters which we have, like per year we have 4, we have been given, and here is 1 year. Now my time here is 1, divided by a number of periods which we shall have. A period is in a quarter of a year, so we shall divide by 4, and we will find that we are going to have, actually it should be 1 divided by a quarter, and we are going to have how many periods? This one will give you 4 periods. This is divided by a quarter. We are going to get 4 interest periods. How am I obtaining 4 interest periods? We know we are being issued with 1 year, and this compound interest which we need to find here is compounded quarterly. And we know in 1 year we are having 4 good quarters. So if we divide by a quarter, we are going to get that 1 year will issue us with 4 interest period. And the rate here, we are being issued a rate of 12%, but per interest period, we shall have 12 divided by 4, and we shall get 4 is our interest period, 12 is the rate per annum. So if we divide, we are going to get, we shall have 3% per interest period. Now we shall calculate we are going to calculate our given compound interest, and later we calculate the given accumulated amount. And we shall say for the first period here, first period we are going to have 14,000 multiplied by 3%, which is 3 over 100, multiplied by 1. That is in one period, interest period. And I will get, this one is going to give me, so I'm going to get here is 420. Now for the next second year, as not year but second period, I'll take amount which we have accumulated in the first interest period. Now I'll take this amount accumulated here, accumulated amount, I'll get it is 14,400, 14,000 plus 420, and I'm going to get it is 14,420. So this one here, I will use it as my next, principal in the next period. So if I do that one, I'm going to have the interest, compound interest in the next period, it shall be 14,420 multiplied by 3% multiplied by 1 period, which will be in the second period. That is second period. And if I do that, I'm going to get here 432.60 shillings, and accumulated amount in the second period, I'm going to get 14,852.60. That is the accumulated amount in the second period. Now I need to find the compound interest. This is the interest in the second period, and I need to find the compound interest or the interest in the third period. I will use the accumulated amount in the second period as my principal in the third period. So I will have 14,852.60 multiplied by 3 over 100, which is my rate, multiplied by 1 in the third period, and I will find out that I'm going to have 445.58 to 2 decimal places. And this one is my interest in the third period. And if I need accumulated amount in the third period, I will now take 445.58 plus the principal, which is 14,852.60 plus 445.58. I'm going to get the amount here will be 15,298.18. This amount in the third period will be the principal in the fourth period, and that one will give me an interest of 15,298.18 multiplied by 3 over 100, that's my rate, multiplied by 1 period. I will get out that I'm going to have something 458.95 to 2 decimal places, and that one is now my interest in the fourth period. And if I find the accumulated amount in the fourth period, I'm going to get accumulated amount will be 15,298.18. You add now to the interest of that fourth period, which is 458.95, and you will find out you are going to get the accumulated amount here is going to be 15,757.13. So this is the amount or the accumulated amount that 14,000 could have earned in 1 year if it was compounded 12% quarterly. So that is how we find. But if you could be asked to find the interest or the compound interest, then the compound interest, you could take this one at the first year, you add to that obtained in the second period, not first year but first period, you add to that of the second period, you add to that of the third period. Actually, for the first period we got here, add to that of second period, third, and then the fourth period. If you add this interest, will give you the total compound interest that accumulated in 4 periods. But if you need the accumulated amount after that 4 periods, we shall find it is 15,757.13. Now we need to see how we can formulate a compound interest formula and how it will help us to calculate the accumulated amount at given periods. Now, let's say, suppose P is the principal which is, or the amount which is invested for a given period of time, like 4 periods. Now, suppose P is the amount invested at a rate of R% per annum, R% per annum, for a period of 4 periods, for 4 periods. Now calculate the amount or accumulated amount at these 4 periods. If we have been given this and we have been told is for 4 periods, so meaning it's 4 years because it is R% per annum. So we shall do this. We have the principal, which is our P amount, which is invested at a rate of R% per annum for 4 periods. So we shall do this. Now let's calculate the interest earned in the first period. Then we add to the principal which we obtain, or the money invested, and we shall have found the accumulated amount in the first period. So what we shall do, in the first period, I'm going to calculate the interest. And interest here, remember as I was calculating earlier, I took the principal, you multiply by the rate of 100, which is per annum, multiplied by the first period, which is 1 year. Now I will multiply by 1 year. And I will find that this one will earn PR over 100. That is what I'm going to get as the compound interest in the first period. But if I need the accumulated amount, if I need the accumulated amount in the first period, I'm going to take the principal, which is P, plus the interest earned in the first period, which is PR over 100. Now I'll take PR over 100. But as you can see, P is common in both of them. So I will factor out P and find that P will divide P1 plus, now this one will be R over 100. This now is the accumulated amount in the first period. Now let's find the compound interest in the second period. And if we do that, we are going to get that in the second period, we shall use the accumulated amount in the first period as our new principal. And it shall now become P into 1 plus R over 100, which will now be like our new principal in the second period. We multiply by R over 100 multiplied by 1 principal. If you do that, what you shall have obtained here is what I'm referring to as the principal in the second, the compound interest in the second period. Now it will be R over 100 multiplied by P into 1 plus R over 100. This is what we shall have found as the compound interest in the second period. If we need the amount or accumulated amount in the second period, we are going to get the principal of the second period plus the accumulated interest. Now the amount accumulated amount actually will be equal to the principal in the second period, which is P into 1 plus r, 1 plus r over 100. Then we add to the compound interest that accumulated in the second period is r over 100 multiplied by p into 1 plus r over 100. This is what I'm finding. Here is the principal in the second period, and this one here is the compound interest that accumulated in the second period. Now, if we do that, we can now factor out the common, which is p into 1 plus r over 100, and we shall find p into 1 plus r over 100. It shall divide here 1 time. And in this other equation here, it shall be now this plus will be here, and this whole equation we shall find that this one will go here once, then that one multiplied by r over 100, we are going to get r over 100. And you can see the terms in bracket are similar. So meaning we can write that one as p into 1 plus r over 100 squared, because it's like taking this multiplied by this. Since it is a multiplication, then we are going to get p into 1 plus r over 100 squared. So we have found this one is the accumulated amount in the second period. Now let's find in the third period. We are going to find the compound interest in the third period, and we shall find that in the third period, we are going to use accumulated amount in the second period as our principal, and that means we are going to take p into 1 plus r over 100 squared multiplied by rate over 100 multiplied by 1 principal, and this one is going to give us r over 100 multiplied by p into 1 plus r over 100 squared. This one here is the compound interest that accumulated in the third period. And if we need the accumulated amount in the third period, we are going to get the principal in the third period, which is p into 1 plus r over 100 squared. Then we add to the compound interest that accumulated in the third period, which is r over 100 multiplied by p into 1 plus r over 100 squared. And if you do that, you will have found the accumulated amount. But as you can see, we have some factors which are common in the two expressions. So we can say we shall factor out the common factors, and that means we are going to factor out p into r over 1 plus r over 100 squared. That is the common factor. And if we factor out, we are going to get, it will go here 1, then plus, into this whole equation, it will go here once, and if you multiply by this, you are going to get r over 100. So meaning that the one which is in the bracket, in the downside of that bracket, we are going to get the terms in the bracket are similar. And if they are similar, we can put them together because it's a multiplication sign. And this one is going to result to p into 1 plus r over 100 cubed. That is in the third period. So let's see for the fourth period. And fourth period, I will do it at this side. And we shall find out that in the fourth period, compound interest that will be have accumulated, we shall take now the principal. Our principal here in the fourth period will be the accumulated amount in the third period, which is p into 1 plus r over 100 cubed. Now, we multiply by r over 100 as our rate, multiply by 1 period of the fourth, and we shall find this one is equivalent to r over 100 plus p into 1 plus r over 100 cubed. That is the compound interest accumulated in the fourth period. So if we need the accumulated amount in the fourth period, we are going to get accumulated amount is equal to the principal in the fourth period, which is p into 1 plus r over 100 cubed. Then we add to the compound interest accumulated in the fourth period, which is r over 100. Actually, this one is multiplication, not plus. Multiplied by p into 1 plus r over 100. Let me just put aside here. So that is r over 100 multiplied by p into 1 plus r over 100 cubed. That is the compound interest accumulated in the fourth period. If you add the two, you are going to get accumulated amount. And after getting the accumulated amount, we can see that we have some terms which are common in both of the expressions. So we are going to factor out the common factors. That is, I'm factoring it out p into 1 plus r over 100 cubed. And I will find that it will go here 1. Actually, it will be 1. In the first equation, I'm going to get 1. And then plus, but in this equation, it will go here once. And if I multiply by that, I'm going to get r over 100. And you will find out that the factors which are in the bracket are similar. So we can put them together and find that the accumulated amount in the fourth period, I'm going to get p into 1 plus r over 100 raised to 4. With that, we can conclude, we have seen that if it is in the first period, the accumulated amount is p into 1 plus r over 100. In the second period, accumulated amount has resulted with a square. In the third period, it has resulted with a cube. In the fourth period, is with the 4. So meaning, if we take our period to be n, then this 4 will be replaced by n. With that, we can conclude that in general, if you have been given n periods, then the accumulated amount in that n periods will be equal to p into 1 plus r over 100 raised to that n period. And this is what we refer to as compound interest formula. And we shall be using this compound interest formula to calculate various problems that involve compound interest. Let's see an example on that. The first example is, find the amount at the end of the fourth year if 30,000 is deposited at 15% per annum, compound interest compounded quarter. So here we are being issued with the amount, and that amount which we have been given will be our principal, and that is 30,000. Rent is equivalent to 15% per annum. Actually, it's 15% per annum, and it's compounded quarterly. And we have been told to find the amount at the end of fourth year. At the end of the fourth year, so time here is 4 years. But period is compounded quarterly, so we can find the number of periods as n. And if we need the number of periods as n, we are going to get the time given divided by each period, which is a quarter. So we shall find the number of years is 4. We divide by a quarter because it is compounded quarterly, and we shall find that if we divide by a quarter, we are going to get, we are having 4, this one is resultant to 4 multiplied by 4 over 1. If you change, you will find the reciprocal of this. And that one is going to give us 16 periods, and that is our n here. So meaning now period here will not be 4 years, but it will be equal to 16 periods, not 16 years. And here we have been given 15% per annum, meaning it's 15% charged per year. But here we are charging our compound interest every quarter of a year. So meaning the rate we can still find it quarterly, and we shall take 15 per annum divided by each quarter. So we are going to divide it by 4 because 1 year has 4 quarters. So if we divide by 4, we are going to get 3.75% per quarter. So it will be 3.75% per each period. Now the rate per each period is 3.75%. Now we can find the accumulated amount at the end of the fourth year, which is compounded or invested at and a rate of 15% per annum, compounded interest, compounded quarterly. So we are going to use that compound interest formula, and we said compound interest formula is equivalent to P into 1 plus R over 100 raised to N, where N is the number of periods. Now that N is here. Now, doing that, we are going to get our principal here. We are being shown with 30,000. Now it will be 30,000 into 1 plus R. We have obtained R per quarter of the period, or per period, we are getting 3.75 over 100. Then N, we found N as 16 periods by taking 4 years divided by each quarter of a year, and we are going to get 16 periods. So if you do that, whatever you will be finding, actually this is not for the interest, this is amount. It's accumulated amount. So that is what we shall refer to as accumulated amount. And it will, if you need the interest then from this, you will take the accumulated amount minus the principal, and you will find the total interest that it has earned in those 4 years. So it will be in 16 periods. So you will find those total compound interest. Now, for this, we need now to find the accumulated amount in 16 periods, which is at the end of the 4th year. This one is giving me 31,851.52. That's what I'm obtaining there. So this is the accumulated amount at the end of the 4th year, or at the end of the 16th period. So we have found the accumulated amount is as this. But if you need the compound interest after 4 years, you will take now the amount minus the principal, and you will find the compound interest. Another example, here we are required to find the rate. Find the rate per annum at which a certain amount of money doubles after being invested for a period of 5 years, compounded annually. Now here, there is no amount. There is no amount issued, just statements. Find the rate at which a certain amount of money doubles after being invested for a period of 5 years. What we shall do here is this. We shall take our initial capital which we invested as P, and that is what we shall refer to as our principal. And since we have been told that we find the rate at which that amount will have doubled in 5 years, compounded annually, then we shall say, let our rate here be represented as R, of which we don't know. And let that rate be, we can even take as R. And we say that the amount accumulated at the period, and here period, or which we can refer to as N, we have been given 5 years. This one we have been told is compounded annually, is per annum. Then accumulated amount, we have been told it doubles this one, so we shall find 2P. So from there we can find out at what rate does that happen. So we can say that to find the rate, we can use that formula of which we can say amount is equal to P into 1 plus R over 100 raised to N. And here we shall say amount we have as 2P because the amount doubles, and here we shall remain with the P as our principal now, not as the formula but our principal which we have. So it is P, and this will remain plus 1 over 1 plus R. Now this R is now R which I'm required to find. So it will be R over 100 raised to, number of periods here, we have 5 years. So we shall take 5 years. Because we have been told it is compounded annually. And if we do that, we are going to get that we can find out by, firstly, after getting this information on that expression, Now we are going to divide both sides by P, that is both right hand side and left hand side by P, to eliminate P on the right hand side, and we shall find that we are going to have this P will cancel with that one, and we shall make the 2 is equal to 1 plus R over 100 raised to 5. After getting that, whatever I shall do now, because I need R, I need to remove this power here. And if I need to remove power, I will find the fifth root on both sides so as I eliminate that power on the right hand side. And if I do that, I will find that this fifth root will cancel the power, and here I shall be finding the fifth root of 2. So I will get here in this bracket, I'm going to have 1 plus R over 100, and on the left hand side, I'm going to get 1.1487 to 4 decimal places. That's what I'm getting to 4 decimal places. And after getting this one, now I can find my R. So what I shall do, on both sides, I'm going to subtract 1. I'm going to subtract 1 on both sides. And if I subtract 1 on both sides, I'm eliminating this one here, so that I may remain with it. Here I will find that if I take 1.1487 minus 1, I'm going to remain with 0.1487 is equal to, now this one, 1 minus 1, I will get 0, and I will remain with the R over 100, R over 100. So if I need R, I multiply both sides by 100, both sides by 100. So I will find out that my R is going to be 14.87%. And if it is to 1 decimal place, I will get 14.9%. So that is what I'm going to get as R, and that is the rate given here, or the rate at which a certain amount invested at 15% per annum, a certain amount invested in a bank or in a financial institution will take to double itself after a period of 5 years. So it will be at a rate of 14.9%. So with the conclusion, I can say that having the formula of compound interest, or a compound interest formula, you can use it to calculate whichever you want to find. For example, if you need the amount, you will just substitute what you have in the next right hand side. And if you need principal, you substitute whatever you have, and you will find you are missing using the formula. As we can see, we have found out the rate, and you can still use this formula to find out the number of periods, or the period at which that amount will accumulate to what you will have given. So you just use the formula and find out which problem you need to solve. Now let's view about appreciations and depreciation. And here we can find out that if we have some assets which we may attach values, we shall find out that some assets with due time, they do tend to lose their value since they are getting over old and wear. So you will find out that as they're being used over and over again, they get being teared down or wear out, and with that you will find their values are getting lost. So such items or assets which undergo loss in value as they do wear with the time, we do refer to as depreciation. And some assets you may find out that as you may have that asset, with the due time, as time goes on, you will find out they do add some values on their already existing value. So such assets that do add values or gain in value, we shall refer to that process of gain in value as appreciation. And this, both appreciation and depreciation, can also be calculated. For instance, let's see how we can calculate out appreciation and how we can find out depreciation at the same time. So we shall start with depreciation, and we can say that, for example, we have been issued here an iron box, and we have been informed that this iron box cost 500. Every year it depreciates by 10% of its value at the beginning of that year, actually, an iron box cost 500 shillings. Every year, it depreciates by 10% of its value at the beginning of that year. What will be its value after 4 years? Now here, we are being issued with an iron box. And this iron box, at the end of each year, it is depreciating with 10% of its value at the beginning of the next new year. So we need to calculate its value after 4 years. So what we shall do here, we shall take first the first value of it, and we shall take that value and let's just call that value as P. That is the value of the iron box at the time which it is bought, when it is still new, and we have been informed that it is 500 shillings. But this iron box is depreciating at the rate of 10% per annum. And we see that at the end of each year, it has lost some of its value. But we need to calculate what value will it have lost in the end of the 4th year. So it is after 4 years, that is our period. So what I'm going to do here, we are going to calculate that amount at the end of each year and see how much does it lose and see the value of that iron box at the end of the 4th year. So on doing that, we are going to get for the first year after buying, it will have lost some value. And if we need to do that, we are going to get the amount as, we shall take 500, we multiply by the rate which we have 10 over 100, multiplied by 1. And this is the loss. We shall have found the loss. Whatever we shall find here is the loss. So if we do that one, we are going to get, actually we are going to get 50 shillings. So we are getting 50. And that is the loss. But if we need the amount after the first year, we shall find out it is 500 minus 50, which will give us 450. So we are going to get this 450 is the amount which has been found after the first year. So it lost 50 shillings, remain with the 450. For the second year, we can simplify it out further and say that the amount will be now this 450, subtract what it will have lost, which is now, will be, now this one, we are going to subtract from this 450, multiply by 10 over 100, which we are going to get here. This one is going to give us 45 shillings because this will cancel this. So we are going to get 450, subtract 45. And we will get, this one is giving us 405 shillings. So from there we can go on, this is for the second year, and then we go to calculate the third year. For third year, or at the third year, we are going to get that the amount which this iron box will be have amounted to after losing 10%, we are going to get, it will be 405, subtract that 405, multiplied by rate, which we have as 10 over 100. So if we multiply by this, we are going to get out that here we are going to get is 40.5. And if you take 405 minus 40.5, that is 405 minus 40.5, it will give you, you're going to get 364.5. That's the amount, so it will be 50 because it's amount. So that's the amount which that iron box could have accumulated to at the end of the third year. So at the end of the fourth year, we are going to get that the amount which it will have accumulated to, or it will have lost to, up to, it will be now, this one will be now our new amount in the fourth year, which is 364.50. Now we shall subtract the loss in that year, which will be be, at the end of that one will be now minus 364.50 multiplied by 10 over 100 as our rate, and you will find out that is 36.545. So it is 364.50 minus 36.45. We are getting here is 328.05. Now this is the amount in shillings that iron box will be costing at the end of the 4th year, because when you use it, it depreciates its value or it loses its value. So meaning that if you bought it at 500, at the end of the 4th year, you are going to sell it at 328.05 shillings. So that is how we can calculate some of that. And we can see that as you move on, it's like we are subtracting and we are using that formula of compound interest. So with that, we can come to a conclusion that if you need to find out the compound interest of, actually not the compound, but the depreciation of a given asset, then it will be similar to that of compound interest, but here, the amount here will be representing not accumulated amount, but this amount here will be representing the value of that asset at the end of that period after loss. And then principal which I will be using here is not principal to represent the initial capital or the initial capital deposited or borrowed. It will be the initial capital at which that item costed or was bought. Then this will be 1 plus, actually because it is depreciation, then it will be 1 minus, now we are subtracting R over 100, which is our rate, raised to N. N is the number of period, like here was 4 periods. R is the rate at which it depreciates. And then this is the initial capital which you bought, or that value was costing. So if you do this, you will find out that whatever you will find here is the value after depreciation has taken place in that given period. Let's see how we can find out appreciation. In appreciation, we say that some assets do gain or have an increase in the value. So if they do increase their value over a given period of time, we will find that as appreciation. We can see it. For example, we are being given the initial cost of a ranch is 5 million. Now this is what we are referring to is a ranch. So we have been told the initial cost of a ranch is 5 million. At the end of each year, the land values or value increases by 2%. What will be the value of the ranch at the end of 3 years? So what we know here, we shall now give out the first amount which we know or that ranch cost. We have been told is 5 million. Rate at which it increases, we have been given as 2% per annum or per year. And we have been issued with the period at which that land had taken so that that rate had increased. And we have been given 3 years. From this, we can calculate the amount at which that ranch will be costing at 3 years. So we can say for the first year, we are going to get out that it will be 5 million plus, we need the amount at the first year. So it will be 5 million plus 5 million multiplied by, now it will be 5 million multiplied by this. What I will be finding here is a gain. So it will be 2 over 100 multiplied by 1. This is a gain at which 2% will have made 5 million to gain in or to increase in 1 year. So we shall find out that this one is going to give us, now it will be 5 million, 5 million. Actually, that is the case. So 2 multiplied by 5, you're going to get 10. So 100,000. So we are going to have 51 That's the amount after the first year. For the second year, now we shall get that the amount will now turn out that this one will be the second value at the second year. So it will be the initial value at the second year, but then we add to the increase at that second year, which will be determined by taking 5,100,000 multiplied by 2% over 100. So we are going to get that at that point, we shall have another amount, and this one is going to give me 5,202,000. That's the amount which is obtained at the end of the second year. So the third year, you will find that that ranch will have accumulated a certain amount, and we shall take this amount at the second year as the initial value of the ranch at the third year. So it will be 5,202,000 multiplied by the rate, which now is not multiplied by, we shall add to the gain at that year. So we are going to add to that gain, and that gain will be 5,202,000 multiplied by 2 over 100. So if you take this one in the bracket, that's the gain at the end of that third year. So it's a gain through the third year, and if you do that, you will find out that, so we are going to get here is going to give us 5,306,000. So that is what it's going to give us. And this is the amount that ranch will be costing at the end of the third year. So we were told to calculate the amount that ranch will be costing at the third year, and we have found this. But this one can even be shortened down to a given formula. And we have seen that for depreciation, we found out that it is given the same as that formula of compound interest, and it was P into 1 minus R over 100 raised to number of period, whereby A was the amount of that asset after all losses or decreases has taken place over a given period of time. And this one was the initial capital at which that asset was costing or was bought. So here, for appreciation now, from there we can identify that if you need appreciation, it will be amount is equal to, here this one resembles PR over 100, and this one resembles P. So if you take P plus PR over 100, and you factor out, you will find that we are just going to find that formula which we used to find compound interest, which now is going to give us, for the first year is this, for second year, you are going to take this one as the initial capital for the second year, and then you add to another PR over 100, and you will find that for the second year, this one here is P into 1 plus R over 100, and here is P. First, this one is this multiplied by R over 100, and here is P into 1 plus R over 100. So if you do this, you're going to end up with P into 1 plus R over 100 squared. That is for the second year. As you move on, you will find this one is going to give us P into 1 plus R over 100 cubed. And you will identify that as you move on, it will be a continuous process. So we can just give this a short form that if we need the amount at this period, we shall tell that the amount is obtained by taking that R over 100, but this N will depend on the number of periods you will be issued with. So with that, we have come to the end of appreciation and depreciation, and I can just urge you, in case you have been given any kind of appreciation and depreciation, just minimize your time and use this depreciation formula to find depreciation, and this appreciation formula to find whatever you miss. If it is R or N or P, you can still find out using the formulas. Now let's see how we can find out hire purchase. We shall see that In our normal daily activity, we find that most people having much more cash or little of them will find they spend more of it to buy basic needs in their homes. So they are left with no choice than to purchase some of the goods which are required at home on credit. And that one, or purchasing of goods on credit in order to be installed in given homes, is referred to as hire purchase. And you will find out that if they purchase these goods on credit, they will agree with their purchasing traders, for example, to initiate it with a down payment, which we usually call it a deposit. So that amount which they pay in order to find the good and then pay the rest later is known as down payment, and this one may be referred to as a deposit, which we may even denote it with letter P. That one refers to as deposit or down payment. And then the rest of the amount which this good may be costing at, so you will find they will agree according to the trader, the goods bought or services bought, and also the amount which should be paid. So you will find out that they will pay the remaining cash or the remaining amount in number of period of, or we may call it in monthly periods. So those number of periods or monthly period we do refer to as that payment as installment. So you will find out that if you need to get the total installment that this person will pay, you will take the installment per each period multiplied by the number of periods. For example, if periods here may be n, let's say our period will be represented by n, so we shall find out that it will be ni, where this one here is representing the number of period and I here is representing installment per period. So with that we can find out that if you need to find out the total amount paid, you will now take, if I buy as given good, for example, if it's a fridge, a sewing machine, or even a cooker, you will find out that if I need to buy it, I will first pay a deposit or what I will refer as down payment, and then the rest of the money that I need to pay, I will pay it in installments for agreed number of periods or months. So if I do that, then I will find that the total amount that given asset or good will be costing or service, it will be equal to, amount now will be equal to period or down payment, not period, the principal or down payment, which refer also to deposit. Then we add to NI, which we refer to as monthly period multiplied by installments. So if you take all the installments, so installment per period multiplied by the total number of periods, you will find the total for installments, and you add it to the down payment, you will find the total amount of that good. And this is what we refer to as hire purchase. So we can say that hire purchase is the process by which is initiated by buying either goods or services on credit, and is initiated by a down payment, and the rest of the money which is to be paid is paid in installments for agreed number of periods. And this owner of these goods will only take the responsibility of having the goods after paying the last installment. Some companies, if the owner or the buyer doesn't pay the last installment, then the good which that the owner or the buyer had purchased actually will be taken from him or her because he had not finished the agreed terms. So the goods will be taken back or the services. So you will find out that the owner will end up without the good, but it is regarded as the owner's good after finishing all the payment. Let's see how we can find out hire purchase, or how we can find out installments, or even the down payment using this formula. If we have been told different kind of condition which buyers are subjected to by the owners of the goods. For example, we have a question. A chain wants to buy a sewing machine on hire purchase. It has a cash price of 7,500. She can pay the cash price or make a down payment of 2,250 shillings and pay it in 15 monthly installment of 550 shillings each. So, how much interest does she pay under installment plan? How much interest does she pay under installment plan? What we are going just to do here, we are going to find out how much interest does she pay from what we have here. So we shall do this. We know one thing. We have been given the cash price and we have given that cash price is equal to 7,500. We have been told it was either she bought that sewing machine either at cash price or by initiation of a down payment of 2,250 with the additional of 550 shillings per each monthly, but for 15 months. So here we shall find out that the number of periods to be paid. Now she agreed to buy it at hire purchase, and we can see that on hire purchase she started by a down payment, which I refer to as principal, of 2,250. This is the down payment which she started with, which is deposit actually. Now that is the deposit. Now installment was equal to 550 shillings per each monthly period, and we can find that number of period here we have been issued as 15 months. We need to find the total interest which she will pay. So we shall find out that if we need the total interest, we are going to get the total interest, which is now here, total installment now will be equal to installment per each month, which is 550, multiplied by the number of months which she took to repay the total installment, and we shall find out that she's going to have 550 multiplied by 15. We are going to get that the total amount which she will pay, or the total interest which she will pay, will be here equal to 8,250 shillings. This is the total amount which she will pay as the interest in 15 months. If we were told how much she will have spent or paid using that process, you will now take 8,250, which is the total installment or interest, you add it to 2,250 as the down payment, and find how much that sewing machine cost on hire purchase. But if it was on cash price, it was just 7,500. So you can see that things bought on hire purchase are always or usually higher than the cash price. So on hire purchase is usually high, but it is on credit. But this one is cash and cheap. So we can find out that in that example, we can have some interest charge on, as here we have found that we have some interest charge on the amount which she has to repay. So she had to repay in 15 months, but installment was 550. If she bought on cash price, she could have just paid 7,500, but after making a down payment of 2,250, we find that the installment she paid is much more than the cash price. So that interest at which she will have used to pay on the amount repayable, we call it as carrying charge. Is the total actually interest of buying goods or services on credit. So that method of buying goods or services on credit, I have told you, is what we are referring to as hire purchase. Now, let's see from this example here. We can give out that from the example, we have a certain formula which will guide us to work out, and we say that formula always resembles what we have. For example, if you need the total amount that is purchased using hire purchase, then it will be equal to, amount will be equal to principal or the down payment, not down payment but the principal. Then you subtract, not subtract but you add to R 100 raised to N. It's just the same formula as that of compound interest. But here, the amount will be the total amount after the hire purchase has been taken place. And then this principal here, it will be now the installment which you will find, the total installment minus the cash price. You will find the principal. Then, actually this one is the cash price. P here represents cash price. Subtract is the cash price minus the down payment. So if you take the cash price minus the down payment, you will get here P, and R will be the rate at which, so that one remains the rate, and N is the number of months. Number of months or periods taken. So if you have that formula, you can still use it to calculate. For our case here, we can find out, because we have everything, we can find the rate at which it was charged, and if we find out the rate, we can use that formula and find out the rate. For example, we shall have the total amount, and the total amount will be 8,250 plus that down payment, as I said earlier. So will be, if you add, you are going to get the total amount is 10,500. That's the total amount that the sewing machine is at hire purchase. And then now the principal here will be equal to the cash price. Cash price is 7,500. So you will take 7,500, you subtract the down payment, which is deposit actually. So it will be 2,250. And you get that our principal here will be 5,250. Now that one will be 1 plus R, and R we don't have. So this was 15 months. So if we need that one, we are going to divide both sides by 5250. Divide here the 5,250. And we are going to get, this one cancel with the other, and you get 1. And here, so you're having 1050 divided by 525, which is 2. So 2 is equal to, let me just write this in full as it is. So we are getting, here is 1, here is 2. So that one is giving us 2 is equal to, here we are going to remain with 1 plus R of 100 raised to 5. If we need to remove that 5, we find fifth root on both sides, and we shall find on the left hand side we are going to have 1.1487 to 4 decimal places, and then here we are going to remain with this. This fifth root with this 5 will cancel itself, and we are going to remain with 1 plus R over 100. So we are going now, because we have this one, we are going to subtract 1 on both sides. So we shall subtract 1 on both sides, and I'm going to get on this side, left hand side, I'm going to get 0.1487. Because negative 1 plus this one, I'm going to get this one, and then here I will remain with 1 minus 1 will be 0. And I will remain with the R over 100. So that is R over 100. If I need R, I multiply by 100 on both sides. And I will find out that this 100 will cancel with the other one. And I will find R is equal to, if I multiply here, it will move the decimal point to the right twice. So I'm going to have 14.87%. And this one to one decimal place, it will give me 14.9%. So I'm getting that the rate at which that higher purchase price was calculated at is 14.9%. So with that, I can say that we have found out how we can find higher purchase, and we have introduced another formula which can help us to find higher purchase in case of rate is given, and if not, we shall use the other of installment. Let's see how we can find out income tax. Every worker in Kenya is entitled to payment for every work done. For those who are in work of the government, some of their salaries or their work being done is taken back to the government. And every worker here receives his reward in different form for its work done. For example, they may receive it in form of salary, others receive them in form of house allowance, others hardship allowance, medical allowance, transport allowance, electric allowance, and different forms. Some of these rewards are taken back to the government. For example, we may see that those who work in the government, they are entitled to certain measures which cut off part of their salaries and take it back to the government. That is what we refer to as tax. And for every personal income, we will find out that there is a tax levied for any working individual who works for the government. That tax which is levied against each personal income is referred to as income tax. Let's see some of the terminologies used in income tax, and we shall start with gross income. And this is the sum of the wages, salaries, profit, interest payments, rents, and other forms of earning before any deduction or taxes have been made, meaning that they include the benefits such as allowances and other which you may benefit that may be either taxed or non-taxed. So if you sum them together, that is what we call gross income. Then we have another terminology which refer to as taxable income. We found out that this one here is the amount at which tax can be levied upon, and it includes the basic salary of the individual or each person who works for the government, plus all the benefits which tax can be levied upon. For example, they may include house allowances, hardship allowances, or other kinds of allowances which tax can be levied upon. So that one we refer to as taxable income. Then we have another one which is referred to as gross tax. Let's just take it as gross tax. And we shall find that gross tax, it is referred to as gross tax because you will find out that our Kenyan government has published out to employers certain measures which they use it to levy tax against the employers so as to give some of it to the government. So those tables which are designed in such a way that every employer is capable of paying back part of their money to the government is referred to as tables for taxation or systems of payee. But we shall find out that if you use that table to cut out the taxable income of each personal employee, you will find out that whatever you will find out is referred to as gross tax. So we shall continue as we go on and see how we can find out income tax using the things here which we have. So if one needs to calculate the taxable income, or actually if you need to calculate out the income tax per each personal or individual, you will need to have a table which will guide you, and these tables are always designed by the government and be given to the employee. And these government are designed in different departments, and this one we refer to them as those of tax. So you will find that they will design a given table and give it to the employees on which they will base so as to levy taxes on their employees. So we shall see another term here which is referred to as relief. And you will find out that every Kenyan citizen who works for the government is entitled to a personal relief at the end of a month of 10. Actually, is a personal relief of 1,056 shillings per month, of which if you calculate per year, you will get that per year is equivalent to 12,572. I think, let's see, 672 actually, shillings per annum. This is per annum, now this one, and this one here is per month. So we shall find out that every Kenyan employee who works for the government is entitled to a personal relief of 1,056 shillings per month, which is amounting to 12,672 shillings per year. Then, if this person pays premiums for insurance of life insurance, you will find out that this person is entitled to, let's say he pays, or if a Kenyan citizen who works for the government pays premiums for life insurance, you will find out that if this person has insured his whole family, that's their wife, children, and himself, at the end of each month, he is entitled to a claim of 3 shillings for every 20 shillings. So we can say this one is for every 1 pound, 1 Kenyan pound. So that one I will write it as for every 1 Kenyan pound. So he's entitled to every 1 Kenyan pound 3 shillings up to 3,000 Kenyan shillings. They should not exceed 3,000. So this person is entitled to 3 shillings per every Kenyan 1 pound up to 3,000 Kenyan shillings as insurance relief. So you will find out that that one is an insurance relief. And so meaning that if person pays, or if a person works for the government and pays premium for life insurance, you will find out this person is entitled to two reliefs. One is that entitled to a personal relief, which is 12,672 per annum, and also to an insurance relief of 3 shillings per every Kenyan pound, which should not exceed 3,000 shillings per month. Or you may be given, if it is an equation, you may be given this one, but they may state how much insurance relief does that person get. Let's see another terminology. Or we do first an example to illustrate income tax. And we have said in Kenya, we do calculate income tax of any given employee using a table which is generated by the Department of the Government, which concerns with the income tax or taxation. So we shall do one example here to illustrate using a table which was designed in Kenya for the employers in 2003. I'll use that table for 2003 in Kenya. And here I have income in Kenyan pound. And also we have rates in percentage. This is just rate in percentage. Here we have been given an example, and this example is that Mr. Langat earns a total of 12,300 Kenyan pound per annum. Calculate how much tax he should pay per annum. How much tax he should pay per annum. So, here we need to find out how much tax this Mr. Langat earns pays to the government. So what we are going to do here, we are going to use this amount that he earns per annum, which we have been told is actually 12,300 Kenyan pound. We shall use this amount using the taxable table that was generated in Kenya in 2003. We shall use that one to calculate the amount at which he should pay to the government or back to the government. So we are going to see how much will it be per annum, and using this one, I'll help you or guide you through the table and see how we can calculate it. If you need to calculate the tax or what we refer to as the gross tax first using the table, we shall use the amount and see in which category does the amount lie on the slabs of the table. For instance, for this case, we have 12,300. And if we look at this point, we will find out that on this slab, it will lie within the range of 11,281 minus, actually 11,281 to 16,752 Kenyan pounds. So we have this one lying under this slab. So we have found it lies under that slab. So if we need to calculate the amount of tax which this Mr. Langat will pay at the end of that year, we shall now first calculate using the slab. So we shall start with the first slab. And on calculation using the first slab, we shall take the excess of the first slab because our range is within this third slab. So the excess of this one is 5808. And if we take that, we are going to get, that is Kenyan pound of approximate to 58. That is 5,808 Kenyan pound multiplied by 2%. That is the tax which is levied against that. And we shall find out that if you do that, you're going to get 116.16. And this is in Kenyan pound. So if we do that, we are going to the second slab and find out what is levied against that slab. Because our amount is located in the third slab, we shall find out how much is within the range of 5,809 to 11,280. And to get that range, we shall take this, we subtract the initial which proceeds so that we may get that range or just the direct. So if you take this, the maximum of the second slab minus the maximum of the first slab, we are going to get the range between them, what is regarded here. Or you take this one minus this one plus 1 because this one is included. So on doing that, we are going to get that one for the second slab. I'm going to get is Kenya shares 5,472 multiplied by, the rate is 3%, so you multiply by that 3%, and we find out that we are going to get 164.16 Kenyan pound. That is what we get in the second slab. So we need to know, because this Mr. Langat's salary lies within the third slab, so we are going to calculate that of the third slab. And on doing that, we are going to find out that in the third slab, it doesn't lie within the maximum. We just have 12,300. So what we do here, we are going to get that 12,300, then we subtract from the maximum of the second slab. So we are going to get 12,300 minus 11,280. 280, and you get is 1020. That is 1,020 Kenyan pound. Or you just take that 12,300, you subtract this, the initial of that slab, which is 11,281. You will get 1,019. But remember, this 11,281 is included. So we shall add 1 of which is inclusive here, and you will get whatever we get there, which is 1,020. So we are going to take that one. We multiply by the rate at which it is charged in that slab, which is 4. So you multiply by 4/100, which is 4% now. So you are going to multiply by 4%, and you find out that we are going to have 40. Actually, it's giving us 40.76. So we have found for the first slab, we had, this is Kenyan pound. So we had for the first slab a tax which was levied was 116.16 Kenyan pound. Second slab we got 164.16 Kenyan pounds. And for the third slab we have found it had a remaining or an excess in that of 1,020 and 20 Kenyan pound, which gave us a tax of 40.76 Kenyan pound. So if we need the total tax here now, if we obtain the total tax here, we shall now take the tax which was levied in the first slab plus the tax in the second slab plus that of the third slab. We shall get what we refer to as gross tax. Let me wrap this because we have already used. So total tax, which is referred to as gross tax, it is obtained by taking 116.16 plus 164.16 plus 40.76, and you will find out that this one is equivalent to, we are going to get is a total of 320.48, actually is Kenyan pound. So if we need it in shillings, we are going to multiply by 20 because 1 Kenyan pound is equal to 20 shillings, and if we multiply by 20, we are going to get is approximate of 6,409.60 Kenyan shilling. This is the gross tax which that Mr. Langat will found at that end of that year. But if we told that Mr. Langas earns a total of that amount, so we mean that if Mr. Langas is entitled to tax, then it means he's a government employee. And if he's a government employee, we know every government employee is entitled to a tax relief of 12,672 shillings per each month. But if you will find out that per each year, but you will find out, if you find out that that amount is less than the tax which levied, then you ignore or you don't subtract that tax to be levied if it is less than the relief, so you don't subtract. For example, here we have found that the tax which Mr. Langat will pay at the end of the year is amounting to 6,409.60 Kenyan shillings, which is equal to 320.48 Kenyan pound. But we have seen this one is less than 12,672. So this one is less than that one. This is the personal relief. So we have found this one is less than. So meaning this Mr. Langat, if we were told that he's entitled also to a personal relief, then he could not pay the tax because it is less than the personal relief. But since we were just asked to give how much does he pay at the end, then here we have no other choice than to give 6,409.60 Kenyan shillings, or in pound, could be 320.48 Kenyan pound. Let's now handle another system which refers to as pay as you earn, abbreviated as PAYE. This pay as you earn, we see that every employer in Kenya is entitled to pay some of his or her salary back to the government. There are systems which are generated, which are used to cut some of the amount which the employees are paid. So if those systems are used, we call that systems as pay as you earn. So we refer to them as the systems which are used to deduct some of the amount from the employee's salary so as to take them back to the government. And you will find that every employer is issued with a system of pay as you earn monthly, which are used against the employees of that employer, and those amounts are then collected and directed to the Department of Tax in Kenya. So that is how we find them, and we shall see them how we can include them in our workings. If an employee is entitled or is given a free house by the employer, then the employee is entitled to 15% of the basic salary, meaning that it is added to the taxable income for the purpose of taxation. If the employer and employees agrees that the employee should pay a given rent, then you will subtract that given rent from 15% of the basic salary. If the employee is given a certain nominal rent, then you shall take that nominal rent as the house allowance and you add it to the taxable income for the purpose of taxation. So if you want to find the taxable income, you will take the basic salary of which the employee is to be paid at the end of the agreed amount of payment at the end of each month by the employer and employee is what we refer to as the basic salary, and the allowance which they cut is what we refer to as different kind of form of them. If it's a house allowance, then if not mentioned, we shall take 15% of the basic salary and we still incorporate it with the basic salary so as to find the taxable income. Now, we are going to see an example which incorporates all of what we have learned in class and see how we can find out taxable income and also income tax from various tables using this example. So we shall see it and see more of it in simplified form. Example reads, Mr. Odhiambo is a senior teacher on a basic monthly salary of 16,000. On top of this salary, he gets a house allowance of 12,000 Kenyan shillings, a medical allowance of 3,060 shillings, and a hardship allowance of 4,635 Kenyan shillings. He has a life insurance policy for which he pays a premium of 800 shillings per month and claims insurance relief. Use the tax table below to calculate his pay. Tax table we have been issued as question asked. We use the tax table below, which is now here, to calculate his payee. So what we are going to do here, we are going to list out whatever the details are given out. From the question, we can see that the basic monthly salary, which will be basic salary, is equal to 16,000. That is Kenya shilling 16,000. So we have another one here we have been told. On top of the salary, he gets a house allowance of 12,000. So house allowances. Now here we have been told, if it were not informed, we could have taken 15% of the basic salary. In case the amount of house allowance were not told, we could take 15% of the basic salary. But here we have been told it's 12,000. So we are going to take that 12,000. He has also a medical allowance of 3,060. So we are going to take medical allowances of 3,060. He also has hardship allowances of, hardship allowances of 4,065, 4,635. And then he has a life insurance policy for which he pays 800 shillings per month and claims insurance relief. So here what we are going to do, because we have not been told how much relief from insurance policy does he claim, then we say that if it is not told, we shall take 3 shillings per Kenyan per every 1 Kenyan pound. Per every 1 Kenyan pound, we take 3 shillings until when it is 3,000 Kenyan shillings per month. That is the excess of which any person entitled to a life insurance relief or policy will get. For this one gets 800 Kenyan shillings. That one is the amount which the person or Mr. Diambo pays to the insurance policy. Then we need to get how much is he entitled to. So we shall divide by 20 Kenyan shillings because that one represents 1 Kenyan pound. So if we divide, we are going to get, he has 40 pounds from 800. So if we take that 40 pounds, we multiply by 3 Kenyan shillings, we are going to get, he is entitled to 120 insurance policy relief. So it is an insurance relief of, so this is insurance, life insurance relief of 120 shillings. So that's what we found. And remember one thing, if this person works for the government, is also entitled to a personal relief, even if we are not all personal relief of, if it is per month, then it is 1,056 Kenyan shillings. So from there we have some of the equations, so we need to work out and find out his pay. From there we can do that by, firstly we have the basic salary, we have all the allowances, and relief we are being issued to. So if we need to calculate now pay, we need first to find what we refer to as taxable income. Remember what we said, taxable income. We said that this taxable income refers to any kind of amount that tax can be levied upon. So if that is the case, we need to find taxable income here, and taxable income will be our basic salary plus all the allowances on which tax can be levied upon. So we shall take 16,000, we add to 12,000, we add to 3,060, we add to 4,635. And if we do that, we shall have found the taxable income. We have added all the allowances. So I'm going to get is 35,695. And this is per month. Yeah, it was for a certain month. So it is per month. And then after doing that, what you need to consider, you need to go back to the table and reconsider which terms are used. And in the table you will find that it is per month, but the rates are given in percentage per every pound. And here whatever we have, it is per month, yes, but it is in shillings. So what we need to do here, we are going to convert them back to pounds. And if we convert to pounds, we know that for every 20 Kenyan shillings actually is equal to 1 Kenyan pound. So here we are having 35,695. So whatever we shall do, we are going to divide and see how many Kenyan pound we shall find from that amount. We shall find 1784.75. We have found there, and this is what I'm referring to, my taxable income in Kenyan pound. And after getting that, then is what I will use against the table so as to get how much gross tax will be found from this table. So on working, the first thing I will identify in which slab does 1,704.75 lie, and you will find out that it lies within the fourth slab. It is within this slab here. And if that is the case, then I'm going to use all the slabs until where I get the fourth slab. And I'll start with the first one, and the first one will give me an excess of 484. So I will start with the first slab. That is first slab. And I will get the first slab will be, the tax from that will be 484 actually it's 484. If you take that one, we subtract with 0, will give you 484. You multiply by 10%, you are going to get 48. That is 48.4 Kenyan pound. Because it is in pound and percentage is just a percentage, then whatever you will still getting as the result will be in Kenyan pound. So if we do that, you're going to get is 48.4 Kenyan pound. Me writing invisibility, so this one will be equal to 8.4. So I will go for the second slab. And second slab, I will take now 940 minus 485, then I add 1, or just take this directly minus the upper one, which is 940 minus 484. And we get 456. So I'm getting 456. That is the amount of Kenyan pound to be taxed, and it is taxed against 15%. So I will get approximate of 68.4 Kenyan pound. The third slab, in the third slab, I'm going to have what I have here as excess, which is 1,386 minus 940. Or I just take this directly, subtract 940, then I add 1, because this one is inclusive. But I do appreciate taking 1,306, subtract 940 directly. I will get the same, that is 456 Kenyan pound, multiplied by 20. The slab is against 20%. So if you do that, you're going to get a Kenyan pound of 91.20 Kenyan pound. So we haven't yet reached the maximum of our taxation. Since whatever we are having as taxable income, we said it lies in the fourth slab. What we are going to do here, we are going to take the total of it and find that if it lies within here, then we shall find of what excess is it to 1,306 Kenyan pound. So to get of what excess is it to this, then we are going to take that one, subtract 1,396, or we subtract 1,307 and then we add 1. any of them will work. So we are going to get 300 in the fourth slab is going to give us 388.75. If you multiply by whatever it is taxed against, which is now we are going to get, it is taxed with a percentage of 25%. So it is 25%. We shall find out that this one is going to give us a Kenyan pound of 97.19. So we are getting 97.19 Kenyan pound. Now, after doing that, we have used our taxable income exhaustively with the table, and we have found the various tax which are taxed against each slab. After doing this, we need to get the total tax which has been taxed against that taxable income. And doing that, we shall find out that if you add all of this, will result in what we call as gross tax. Therefore, gross tax is all the tax which has occurred using a taxable table. This is a taxable table. If you tax using this table without subtracting any kind of relief, whatever we will have found is what we refer to as gross tax. So we are going to add all of them so as we get that gross tax. And we shall find that it is resulting in 305.19 Kenyan pound. So we are finding it is 305.19 Kenyan pound. After finding this is what I'm referring to as my gross tax. So I can now wrap it because we have already used. After finding that, we were asked to find pay as you earn. This pay as you earn is what we refer to as income tax. So we needed to find pay as you earn. Actually, it's abbreviated as PAE in capital letter. So it's pay as you earn, which is known as income tax. So this one is calculated by taking gross tax minus reliefs. So whatever we are going to take here, the first thing, we have gross tax, but this one is given in Kenyan pound. So what we are going to do here, we are going to take these Kenyan pounds which are of gross tax, we convert them into Kenyan shillings. And if we do that, we are going to get 305.19 is in Kenyan pound. So we shall multiply by each Kenyan pound is equal to 20 Kenyan shillings. So we shall multiply by 20 Kenyan shillings, then we divide by 1 pound, and we shall find out that we are going to have, you will find a total of Kenyan shillings as 6,103.80 Kenyan shilling. That is the total gross tax that results from the table. So let's find the PAE or pay as you earn, and we have said it will be gross tax minus reliefs, and our gross tax we have found in Kenyan pound per month, it will be 6,103.80. So we are going to minus or subtract all relief. And here we were told this was a government, actually Mr. Odhiambo is a government worker or a civil worker. And if that is the case, he's also entitled to a personal relief of 1,056 Kenyan shillings. But he also pays a premium of 800 shillings towards his life insurance policy. And we know from what we learned that he's entitled to every pound, is entitled 3 shillings for every pound. So if we divide, you are going to get, you will find he's going to have 40 pounds from 800 shillings. And if it's 40 pounds, we multiply by 3 shillings per pound, and we get that he gets a relief of 120 shillings. So meaning that A total relief will be personal relief plus insurance relief, and if you add them together, you are going to get 1,176. So that is our total relief, and if we subtract from this, we are going to get what we refer to as pay or income tax. And it will be in Kenyan shilling, because whatever we are dealing with here is also in Kenyan shillings. So we shall find out. You're going to get, this man is going to pay to the government an income tax of 4,927.80 Kenyan shilling. That is what we find as the income tax or the pay which this person pays back to the government. We have seen, using the table, the first thing we had to find taxable income. And we say to find that taxable income, we have seen, you take basic salary, you add it to any of the benefits which are taxed. Like here we added all benefits of allowances, which was medical, house, and hardship. And then after doing that, you use that taxable income against the table so as to find the tax levied upon that taxable income using each slab, and then after adding, you will find the gross tax. After getting the gross tax, you subtract all the reliefs in order to find how much that person pays to the government, and is known as payee or income tax. Now let's continue with the question. And the question proceeds as, now that one we handled A, let's handle B, and we have been told, in addition to payee, the following deductions are made on his every month. We have WCPS at 2% of the basic salary. We have NHIF of 400 shillings, Kenya shillings. Cooperative shares and loan recovery, that is 4,800 shillings. And we have been told to calculate his net pay. Net pay is also referred to as gross income. So we need to find whatever it includes. So let's see. Let's now find the total deductions, and the total deduction we shall start with WCPS, and we have been told it spends 2% of the basic salary to pay for WPS, that's their deduction. So that is for WCPS, the deduction on it is 2% of the basic salary, so it will be 2/100 multiplied by the basic salary, which we found it was 16,000. And on doing that, you are going to find that is equivalent to 320 Kenyan shilling. So you will have 320 shillings. Then we have another deduction, which is NHIF. So we have NHIF, and this one we have been told they take a Kenya shillings of actually 400 shillings. And we have another one here that is a cooperative share and loan recovery. So we just call it loan recovery. So if it is a loan recovery, we have been told a total of 4,800 shillings is spent there. So that is what he pays, Mr. Diambo pays. So we shall take the total deduction, that is 320 plus 400 plus 4,800. This is just some of the deduction. But remember, to find the total deduction, which will be removed from the taxable income, then it will be equal to, we shall take the payee, we add to all deduction, and this one we are going to get payee, we have here is 4,927 927.80 plus we are having another deduction which is 320 for WPS, 320 shilling. We shall add 400. Then we add 4,800. These are the total deduction which are experienced. So let's add all the deduction and find how many there are. And in order to get the net pay, we are now required to find taxable income minus all the deduction. So with that we shall have find net pay, or what we call income, actually net income. Let's add and find what we shall find. The total deduction here I'm getting is equal to 10,447.80. That is what I'm getting as the total deduction. But remember, taxable income here, we had taxable income as 35,695. So to get the net pay, or we may also call it net income, it will be equal to taxable income for this case, and this taxable income for Mr. Odiambo's case was equal to the gross income. So that taxable income, now we shall subtract what we shall find here, which is 10. Actually, let's just say all deductions. So on doing that, we are going to have 35,695 shillings, subtract 10,447.80. So on doing that, we shall have a total of 35,695. We are going to get 25,247. 25,247.20 Kenya shilling. That is with 20 cents. So that is what we shall find as the net pay or net income of Mr. Odhiambo. That is after all deductions have been made. So we shall now tackle a summary on a summary on income tax. Now, under income tax, we already observed one of the things which we call gross income. And we say this one is what you will find if you add all the salary plus all benefits and allowances without deducting anything or tax from the individual. So whatever you will have is what we shall refer to as gross income. But if you have another one which you want to levy tax, which tax is levied upon, is what we now refer to as taxable income. And this one refers to your basic salary plus any other benefit you will find which tax is levied upon, or which is tax. So you will take basic salary, and in most cases is plus all allowances you will have, which are taxed, or you may even add benefits which are even taxed, taxable benefits. So if you add that one, you will get a taxable income. After getting a taxable income now, you will use your table you are provided with in order to calculate income tax. So we shall use a table, and in a table you will find it is divided into slabs. The first column in this section, as we have seen for Mr. Odhiambo, you will be having amounts, stated amounts in rows up to given limit. This is amount up to given limit, and here it will be read either per shilling or read per pound, or in percentage, or shillings per pound, or in percentage. So you will find that is how it is. So If you calculate that way, in case you calculate first slab, you find your taxable income, maybe it lies in the fourth slab. The slabs refer to those rows you will find. These ones here is what we are referring to, slabs. These are the slabs. So if you calculate your amount and you find your first slab will give you something. Second on calculation, you find what you will have. Third, and because your amount lied, for example, if this one lied in the fourth, you will take that one minus the excess in, you subtract what is the largest limit in the third slab so as to get the fourth slab. So that is the remainder. We do call it the remainder or remaining. So you take the amount, you multiply by the rate, and you will find the tax. This rate is now the tax charged per each given condition. If it is per pound or per shillings, it will be indicated. So after doing that, you will obtain something. So if you take all this you have added here, you sum them together, whatever you will get is what we refer to as gross tax. It's gross tax because reliefs haven't been deducted from it. So this is what we shall refer to as gross tax. And after getting gross tax, if you want to get payee or net pay, not net pay, you want to get payee or what we refer to as income tax, then you shall take gross tax, you subtract given relief. In case this person is paying some premiums to life insurance company, remember we said he is entitled to 3 shillings per every pound until for a maximum of 3,000 per month. So if he's entitled to any given, if he pays any premiums, then to insurance company, is entitled to get some of 3 shillings per every pound. So you will take, for relief, you will take the relief which we usually know as personal relief. You will take the personal relief, which is normally issued as 10,000. Is normally issued as 1,056 per month or 12,672 per year. Then you add to any given reliefs, that it may be life insurance relief or any other stated. If you have been stated is entitled to any other kind of relief, you will add all relief, and then you less from gross tax. What you will come up with is what we refer to as net tax, or is also referred to as pay as you earn, or income tax. That is what we do refer to as that way. So that is how it is found. Then we can continue from there, that after you have net tax, you can find net income or net pay. And in order to find net income or net pay, you will now take the taxable income, you less what you will have found as deductions. And these deductions, all the deductions may include this what we have here, net tax. You may be issued with deductions such as WCPS, NHIF, you pay some loans, or any other stated deductions.
After that, generalization formula for getting the income, net pay.
Now we are going to see how we can use payee to go back to the taxable income in case you have been provided with a payee. We shall handle one example to guide us through, and we shall see, we have one of the example here, and that is Mr. Magenda is a civil servant who is entitled to a life insurance relief of 360 per month. If he pays a payee of 5,000 shillings per month, use the table below to calculate his possible taxable income per month. The table is, we have been told Mr. Magenda here is a civil servant, meaning that at the end of that month is entitled to a personal relief of 1,056 shillings. Every civil engineer, every civil servant is entitled to a personal relief of 1,056 shillings per month, or 12,672 per year. Now, we have been issued that, or told that this Mr. Magenda is also entitled to a life insurance relief of 360 Kenya shillings. If he pays a payee or a pay as you earn of 5,000 shillings per month, then we have been told calculate his possible taxable income per month. So what we are going to do here, we are going to do reverse of what we did in the previous session. So we are going to first see how much tax is generated before reliefs are taken from it. How much we shall get as gross tax before we get this net tax. This is payee, which is net tax. So we shall get that gross tax, and we know from the previous session we said that gross tax we can obtain it by taking net pay plus reliefs. And for this case, we have a net pay of 5,000 Kenyan shillings. Now we are going to add reliefs, and here in this case we have two reliefs. One from life insurance, which is 360 shillings, plus another one which is a personal relief of 1,056 shillings per month. So we are going to add the relief there to net pay, and we are going to get that our gross tax is 6,416 Kenyan shillings. Now, what we have obtained here is what you will find after taxing using the slabs by the help of a table. Now we are going back to the taxation slabs and find at which slab shall we find, if we add all the tax we shall find when we tax using this table. For that case, we are doing a reverse taxation. So we are going to do first, in case to find this 6,416 shillings, the first thing we should determine here is our now gross tax is in shilling. Is the table also in shillings? So we shall see, and you find that the table is per month. Whatever we have here is per month. Next thing, this one is given in shillings and this one is in pound. So in order to get them or to use the table, we must make our gross tax to be in resemblance with the table. So here it is in pounds. We must make this one also to be in pounds. So what we are going to do, we are going to change our gross tax to pounds. And changing to pounds, we know every 20 shillings is equal to 1 Kenyan pound. So we shall take this 6,416 shillings, we divide by 20 in order to get the number of pounds we shall be having. And here I'm getting, we shall have 320.8 Kenyan pounds. That is what we find if you convert that gross tax into Kenyan pounds. So now after having this, we know this is what you get by using taxing table. So we are going back. And on going back, what we shall do, we are going to find under which shall we find this in case you use the table. So the first thing you shall do, we are going to take the first limit of the table, which is excess 484. For the first slab, you multiply by 10%, and that is 10 over 100, and we shall find you are going to have 48. This is going to give you 48.4 Kenyan pound. So we are getting that. But if you compare this 48.4 to 320.8, you are getting that that one is smaller to this. So meaning we have to continue. So we shall now continue by taking the excess of this one also. And the excess shall be 940 minus 484. We are taking the limit between it. So we shall be 456. So we are getting there, we have 456. A limit between 485 to 940 is 456. So we are going to multiply by 15% for the second slab. And this 15% is the same as writing 15 over 100. And you shall find your answer is 68.4 Kenyan pound. Then what you do next here, you add the two and see if they are equivalent to that. If they are equivalent to that, then you leave it there. But if not, you continue. So we shall add, and you find on addition, I'm getting 116.8. But it's very small compared to gross tax. So what it means is that we are going to continue, and I shall take now the excess of this one, that is 1396 minus 940, and we shall find is 456. So I shall take 456 multiplied by this is in the third slab, and that is in this slab, which has a rate of 20% as tax. So it will be with a rate of 20%, which is equivalent to 20 over 100. And if we do that, we are going to get 91.2 Kenyan pound. Now from there, I'm going to take that 91.2, add to the previous, what you got in the previous session, when you add 48.4 to 68.4, and you shall find you are getting 208. So this tax here, this total is giving you 208. Is 208 equivalent to 320.8? Is still less. So what you do, you continue taxing. So we shall also take that one. That is 1852 subtract 1396. You shall get 456. Now you multiply by 25. Let's multiply by 25%. And you're going to get, if you multiply by 25%, which is the tax in that slab, you are going to get in the fourth slab that this one alone is going to give you 114 Kenyan pound. Now, if you add that 114 Kenyan pound to 208, you are going to get 322. So this total here is going to give you 322 Kenyan pound. But if you see this 322 Kenyan pound is much more greater than, is actually greater than our gross tax. So what you should do here, you will only sum up to the third slab. After summing up to the third slab, what you do, you will now say, all this gave us 208. Now what we shall do, you will not use this one to calculate that. So we need an excess amount of which, if you tax within the rate of 25%, it shall give you 320.8 minus this one. So we need that excess amount that will give you, now we shall take 320.8 pounds minus 208. You are going to get 112.8 Kenyan pound. That is what you find there. So we need an excess amount within the slab of, or the fourth slab, which shall amount to this given rate in case you tax using 25%. So to get that one, we shall say we have an amount on which lies between here, so we can say let it be y. If we multiply it by the rate of 25%, we shall find 112.8 Kenyan pound. So on solving that, we are going to get that that given amount is equal to, y is equal to that given given rate here divided by the given percentage. So it shall be 451 is giving you 451.2 Kenyan pound. That is why. Now after getting that, we have found that the excess amount in the fourth slab here is 451.2. So to get that amount that was total, which we used for taxation, will now be that 451.2 we add to the list in that column. So it will be 1396. So we are going to add to 1396. And if we add, we shall find the total amount which we shall refer to as taxable income that was used in taxation in order to give you a total of 320.8 as gross tax in pounds. So we shall find this one is going to give you per month only, it will be 1,847.2. That is how we do calculate gross tax. Actually, we do calculate taxable income by reverse taxation using the help of the table when you are given payee and any other given reliefs. With that, we have come to the end of commercial arithmetic. I hope it has been interesting. Thank you for watching it. See you in our next video.